Aella was about fair play.
I'm a family man. Maybe we can get rid of this threat without it coming to bloodshed.
They did the biggest sacrilege you could possibly imagine.
There's only one response to that.
These hooligans need squashing.
And that doesn't make me a bad guy.
You said in an interview before that King Aelle is not a villain to you, and one of the most fascinating aspects of the show is actually that if one thinks about it, the audience should actually root for King Aelle as much as for Ragnar, as he is the victim of an unprovoked barbarian attack, and he basically loses all of the time until he is brutally killed in the end for nothing else but punishing a raider and doing what everyone grants the Vikings, taking revenge, as Ragnar has killed his brother as well. We have a fan question here regarding that. How do you feel about King Aelle? Do you consider him a defender of the English from the invaders, or just as an antagonist to the main character?
Well, actually, I think of him more as someone who had a nice, dealable area of land to prevail over, but never really had the kind of ambition that Egbert had.
I was aware that my kingdom is by no means as luxuriant and as comfortable and as vital as others, because it comes from an old school. We have resources, but our kingdom is sweet and old-fashioned and subject and prey to the future and things moving on. In a perfect world, he would have completed his reign in his territory in that old-fashioned way.
Yeah, actually I thought so too. But as he had the bad luck that he wasn't granted that sort of peace, he was kind of pushed into the position of defender of his people against the Vikings. And how did that look from King Aelle's perspective, from your perspective?
The thing is that Christianity had become an important part of how my kingdom worked, and as can be told by the number of religious elements to it. I've got even when the Vikings come, I've got sort of madrigals being sung, and I take great consultation with my priests, who are the profferers of the wisdom that is going to be ours to stick to, and hopefully ours to have faith in and stand by us in times of strife. This is the parameter of which my world begins and ends with. Just an ethical system, which if we were all on that page for, then we had something in common, and I was the power at the top of it, saying, I believe this, therefore you've got to believe it too. And it was working in the way it works when you have a captive audience. Now, obviously, we hadn't suffered the kind of attack from these rather sexy pirates that were coming to assail us. Up until then, I was trying to play with a straight bat with my people. It's the first test that you ever see of me before you get to see the test of whether he is going to be able to deal with the wayward daughter. The first test is that very foundation that I am relying for all of my people to be on the same page about was being desecrated. The ultimate insult and the ultimate hooliganism. They did the biggest sacrilege you could possibly imagine. They desecrated the churches. They stole all the goodies, and they plundering, pillaging, and raping willy-nilly.
They came to the church at Lindisfarne, laid everything waste with grievous plundering, trampled the holy place with polluted steps, dug up the altars, and seized all the treasure of the holy church. They killed some of the brothers, took some away with them in fetters. Some they drowned in the sea.
Even if I were a pacifist, there's only one response to that. I have to show with an iron fist that we're right and they are so wrong.
They're not welcome in my kingdom.
All of my reactions and the way that I had to deal with it were in a way confirming that as long as we all have this faith then we will be protected by God. And as far as I'm concerned, these heathens, these barbarians, these godless people were just unruly elements of society that couldn't prevail as long as I kept kneeling down and asking him to hear my prayer.
And I have to believe that that is going to be one of my superpowers, because I am doing the right thing, and if God were to judge me, he would see it that way. And much as we don't think it's great killing people,
obviously these hoodlums need squashing. And given that they only turned up in a small amount at the first time, it just seemed like a bunch of strong and dangerous scallywags that we probably had enough people to deal with.
Just a few baddies who were just drifting through, as opposed to this was a scouting group coming to check out what easy meat we were and what we had to offer, who were then, because they'd figured out how to navigate and get places, were going to be a significant force that should have been expunged the second they arrived.
And therefore, even though I may have been under-equipped at that stage in the game, I didn't think I was under-equipped. Half a dozen great big tall swines with tattoos turn up. This must be a piece of piss. Let's kill them.
You said, okay, you relate to the characters. That's actually a really important point I wanted to ask about, because you have played not easy to love characters frequently, and you have a way to play them that communicates that there's more to the character than just being, someone you don't really like. And so that's my question. What qualities do you appreciate or respect in King Aelle most?
Well, the thing is that I am the father of girls. Also, I have had the same responsibility that all of us have at some point. What happens at a certain time in your life is that you become the parent to your parents. So the responsibility of being the linchpin of a family unit, and not only a family unit, but as a king of, Northumbria, I am also responsible for calling the shots.
My lord, let me think on it just a little while. In the meantime, let it be known, I have sent envoys out to raise more men to arms for our use.
And coming up what I deem to be the most ethical is certainly one part of it, embracing the Christian ethic, to keep the integrity, and yet to rule with enough of an iron fist to make decisions which may seem unpopular at certain times, and yet are all for the good, for the unit, for the family, for the tribe that I am in charge of. And I was trying to make sure that my daughter, my son, my wife, everyone was catered for, and that the people who looked after me, my trusted kings, my chancellors and my bishops and my God knows what else, I wanted everyone to be on the same page.
So it was this basically the moral integrity and the responsibility for the community that he had.
Yes.
Is what you appreciate about him.
Well, absolutely. It's a difficult job. It's a difficult job being Prime Minister or President of the United States of America. I'm not saying it's an easy job. And so being the king, the buck stops with me. And I was playing with a straight Saxon Christian bat. We're still buying the Christian way, the honest way. The way that means that if we do the right thing and then the Lord sees us do the right thing, then you know what? There will be a magic hand of protection because we're following the right team. And things were done with discussions and arrangements, and marriages and all manner of things were done on an understanding of of honor and trust. When we see other people running different kingdoms and Quenthrith and everything, it's all about stealing an advantage and cheating at cards. And I was trying to play cards fairly. I was not peeking at the other people's cards.
I was content with making sure that my little section ran the way I wanted it to.
I'm not alone in fearing your true ambitions, King Egbert. It has been said that gaining the throne of Wessex was never going to be enough for you.
It would seem to be very agreeable if we could just rub along in a polite way that follows rules, not just the commandments, but also the rules that have worked long and good enough to have a community of people that live in that kingdom who are not abused and who can live their lives, have their children, get enough remuneration, which means that people will live as full a life as was available at the time. The fact of the matter is, there's always going to be people who want to get a little bit more than everybody else or a better deal on things like that, who will compromise what is ethical because, you know what, crime does kind of pay for a lot of people.
Egbert is more forward-looking and looking to see that it's all very well playing with a straight bat, but to be honest, any kind of guile that gives him the upper hand is quite prepared to renege on something.
Okay, we'll go into Egbert's betrayal and how King Aelle basically is a victim of his own integrity when we are going through the scenes. But first, I would like to address a more general question about the character. I know that from writing you usually have a whole load of background story for a character which doesn't go into the actual writing, but you have to have that, you have to know that. And so I thought a character like Aelle, the way you portrayed him, there's so much actually so much complexity throughout the seasons, despite the very short amount of time he's on screen, that I thought you must have had a background story for him. And I would like to know how did that look? What should we know about him that hasn't been seen on screen?
You're absolutely right. It's all very well looking at what my words are in the scenes, but in terms of trying to make someone 3D, not only do I have to respect myself, respect my character, and see him as wholly rounded, but there were occasions where I got the opportunity to fill in. For example, when I introduced my son and my wife.
Ragnar Lothbrok. I present my wife, Ealhswith, and my son, Egbert.
Think about this in terms of what I know is a perilous situation. I have invited to supper some people who are not my kind of people, but I'm sharing with them and taking the unusually alarming measure of going right over and saying, hey, well, this is my wife and this is my boy. And this is a way of showing that we have this in common.
A few of the things that definitely will be the case is that some of these Yobbo men who are visiting my place here, they too will have children. They too will have a special woman in their life, or man, or whatever.
I don't say, so who's your missus? You've got any kids? But I do what is a very well dragged up, good manners piece of etiquette, a bit of social etiquette, and also a bit of trust, because
I risked what might have been dangerous, going too close to the animals in a zoo or in a safari park.
I'm bringing my terrified young boy and my not very sure about coming over to meet these yobbos wife, and I'm saying, listen, I'm a family man, like you probably, and this is my boy. I care about him. I respect the family unit. I
I'm a man and I love my family. Just thought I'd let you guys know that before we then go on and see whether we can have a civilized meal together. And then I've also, it's like I'm having guests over. I've set the place up. I've turned the Bluetooth stereo on, which in those days happened to be a bunch of ecclesiastical singers. I've got the right lighting and I've got some proper food, proper tucker, and we are breaking bread together. Now this is a gesture of someone who is being a good host and who is giving them the chance at face value to break bread with us and maybe end up not thinking we're such a bunch of asses.
So it was actually an attempt to build kind of a relationship, or to get it,
to try and show the similarities between us. I was putting on a show not only for them, it was a little bit of dinner theatre, and I wanted to show off, like you do when you're hosting, show off my place to these guys and hope that we're all human beings that maybe would have a point of reference, and that if I invited them over for supper, then they would see that actually we had the potential to be friends or allies, or at least vaguely comfortable bedfellows whenever we needed to be so. Sort of feeling them out to see whether we have whether this kind of danger could actually be squashed and quelled a little bit with friendliness and hospitality. They say that if you're about to have a terrible fight with someone, or if someone's about to murder you, that you should tell them your name, that you should reveal something of yourself, reveal the similarities that bear in you. I'm a person, you're a person, we all have a life behind all this. Wouldn't it be just awful just to waste it and murder each other? Yeah, I was showing hospitality in the hope that we could garner some uneasy friendship that meant that we didn't have to end it all in tears. Yeah, obviously when they started to get a bit rowdy, you have to I treated them as though there were people who were unfamiliar with how to have a dinner party, and I was hoping to find a point of reference and to show the kind of friendliness and open-heartedness that meant that we could maybe trust each other.
Is he a priest?
He is a bishop of our church, a man of God.
I too have a man of God at home.
Now, obviously, I didn't trust them, and obviously, they have no interest in trusting me. They want to rip me off.
£2,000, gold and silver.
What did he say? How much?
£2,000.
I do not think I heard you properly, Ragnar Lothbrok.
And I know that most of their intentions would be that these are the bigger boys, the nasty boys, who are going to come and kind of intimidate us. But if we show them honesty and openness, then maybe we can get rid of this threat without it coming to bloodshed. That stage in the game, I probably thought, I did. I thought that if we wanted to take them now, we could take them because there were only a few of them there. We invited the tiger into our house, and that didn't come to good either. But hey ho.
I'm glad you have mentioned this, as that raises a very interesting question. We have this moment where King Aelle's soldiers actually step forward, and the Vikings stand up and...
Yeah.
I agree to the terms.
And my question is, why didn't he let his men just slaughter them?
Because that's being a savage. Diplomacy is part of kingliness, and the truth of the matter is that when everyone stood up and did that, and my people were ready on the attempt to do that, I didn't decide to take that opportunity to deal with it because it seemed too unfair an advantage.
and that's because he plays cricket by the rules. He plays boxing by the rules.
That's the thing with being a host, and it's in his own hall and not shedding the blood of guests. Does it play a part?
Yes, of course, but it is in that particular situation we would have prevailed because the odds were in our favour by a massive amount, and that for someone who plays by the rules, who is a sportsman, let's say, that's not fair play. And Aella was about fair play, and the trouble with people who subscribe to playing by fair play is that they are likely to become victims of people who don't care about fair play, they just care about the win.
Yeah, sadly and unfortunately for King Aelle, that is what he encounters on both sides, with Egbert on the one hand and the Vikings on the other.
These people are working from a different ethical point of view. Their gods are not talking about do the right thing and you go to karma. If you kill someone that doesn't believe what you believe in, you're going to go to Valhalla. So it's a win-win situation. As far as they're concerned, what we believe in is hokum. There isn't a book for the Vikings that they can look in going, if you live a good life and you yada, 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 then you will have an everlasting peace in the afterlife. What they've got is the same as people of the fundamentalist whatevers believe that actually they're not breaking any rules by desecrating other people's deals because the other people's beliefs are rubbish. Therefore, it's not even that they're being unethical because ethics doesn't come into it. The strongest will prevail. If your God's going to protect you, let me stick this axe through your head and see what your God does for you. What we're actually dealing with is heathen yobbos against people who, yes, admittedly, have got the veneer of civilization over them, but are trying to follow a set of rules which don't include it's okay to murder people that aren't members of the same church as you. These godless people, as far as I'm concerned, their way isn't the right way. Listen, I'd already learned that they had smashed up Lindisfarne. They had been brutal with the sacraments of the church. They had desecrated a place of worship. They had raped people. They had murdered people. There were hooligans who were the kind of people you don't want to meet in a pub when they've had too many beers.
So King Aelle essentially is a decent person who tries to do the right thing and not to wrong anybody.
Yeah, well, basically, I'm buying into the whole Christian book. I'm buying into it. And so, therefore, I believe if I am ethical and right-minded and follow the rules as put down by the church that we've decided to follow, then guess what? I am giving us the best possible opportunity to prevail, the best possible opportunity to be a good, honest person who is a company man, and the company I'm working for is God.
I'm really delighted that you say that King Aelle actually is a rather peaceful person with high ethical standards who does not want to harm anybody unless he has to defend himself, and then of course he will do it with force. But I'm delighted because that's very much in harmony with the conclusion I reached when I took a second look at him. But I think there still are two moments that seem to be a bit at odds with the bulk of what we have seen of him. You might have some interesting explanations.
I have something new to show you. Let the serpents bite these devils. Let them also bite those too weak and afraid to fight to the death for their king and master.
My lord!
Little terrified, my Lord Wigea? What, have you lost your faith? Are you not certain anymore that God will raise you up from the grave?
Have mercy!
Personally, I hope he does not, and believes you there to rot.
No! No! Please!
This is basically old school public school punishment. Obviously, a little more brutal, but this is a sign of saying, now listen, I'll be decent with you, but if you let me down, I'm going to murder you, and everyone's going to know about it because those are the rules, and that's the only way I can keep my entire fleet in charge. While I've still got people who have got my back, I have to fire someone every now and then to show that I'm not weak. And my public school punishment system is just a signal to try and show everyone that I'm no pushover.
Now, let us prepare to defend ourselves against these heathens and barbarians.
We have this moment where he seems to enjoy that.
I think what it has to show, what it's about, before I take Wigea to say, here I have something to show you, my people all are talking in their little huts about how, God, these yobbos turned up and it looks like they're going to get shit all over us. And the thing is that what I need to do to show all of the people that I'm in charge of, that actually I am not prepared to look like a loser and unking-like in this issue, and I would like to now premiere the new way that I deal with people that are scared, who are in my employ, who I need to be brave champions. And so it's not that I am relishing necessarily the fact that this person who was a bit of a scaredy cat has been damaged in such a seemingly Bond villain brutal way. It's actually to let the rest of my guys know that I'm not at home to any weakness on this front. We are on the correct team. He came back snivelling because there were half a dozen guys who he appears to think had magical powers, and what I don't need as the head of my crack squad SAS team is a snivelling bloke who's coming back saying that actually this is beyond what I can deal with. And so, as a gesture to show that I'm not at home to failure about this, I need to remind my people, much as I have lived benevolently with them and not done a lot of punishment for people, people have stayed in line. And what I need is someone with a bit more poke about them. Perhaps my brother's going to be the right guy to realise that these are just men, and if you stab them, they die. And so that gesture of the snake pit and the fact that it seems like a rather grisly and disrespectful end is about reaffirming the fact that I'm not on the run and scared about these people, because as soon as the word got back from what Wigea was saying in the council to all the other folk that live within my kingdom, they're all going to be scared too. Of course they are. And I need to let them know that they have been unnecessarily frightened by the impact of the Vikings. And that's because I didn't have a strong enough guy at the top of the team to deal with these yobbos. And so the relish is that it is going to be a successful reminder that I am not at home to Mr. Cockup. I am not going to accept my champions and my fighters to be intimidated by this. And this is what happens to people who think it's okay to start running home to mummy and saying, I'm a bit scared. And that relish is, I now believe that I think I've made my point to my people. This incident at the snake pit will have travelled like wildfire amongst not only my champions, my fighters, but also my people who now don't think that, God, did you hear what? Aella went back to his room and cried because he's scared of these Vikings.
Okay, and the second thing is in season 4b, when King Aelle gets Ragnar into his hands finally. Maybe you have a good explanation here too, where he is enjoying the torture.
This guy has desecrated everything that I believe in. And my people have seen me constantly as weak because we have not prevailed. And so they're not absolutely certain that they're not part of history and a bunch of anachronistic people who are going to be dominated by people like the Vikings. And so I basically am saying to everyone, tonight is a party night because we are going to now just see the affirmation of what we believe in, and these people will just be a small footnote in history. And you know what? This is party night. And the thing is, that's not because he's taking ghoulish pleasure in all that. It's just to make sure that everyone knows that if you are godless, then you will die godlessly.
Thank you for clearing that up for us, because the rest of the torture he obviously, apparently, is not enjoying at all.
Oh.
But it's not only that King Aelle did not enjoy torturing Ragnar because it was just a necessity to get him to
Ask for absolution.
He also lets him finish his speech at the end. That's also, and he doesn't like it a bit, but he lets him finish his speech.
Yeah.
That's a point of respect or something.
You're right. You're absolutely right. The truth of the matter is that King Aelle is such a mensch that he doesn't deny the condemned arsehole prisoner his final words, because, to be honest, in a forward-thinking, expert-based future world, there's no way that you would accommodate the person for any final words. Me personally, much as I always give a sucker an even break, knew what I don't need my people to see is someone get to the end of their polemic about what it is that they're all about. What I need to say was, what do we need to know about this guy? This guy desecrated the church and shagged your wife. What do you think we should do with him? Kill him. And that doesn't make me a bad guy. That's just the way it should be.
Yeah, that's also clear from the environment, his soldiers cheering and all the people coming and standing there and waiting to witness that. But he's really respectful here. And last question.
True respectful. That's why he was abused and pretended to think that maybe if he introduced his wife and kids, that people might think that he was a decent chap. Fact of the matter is, nice guys in this particular scenario really should stop being such nice guys.
King Aelle is being the nice guy here.
King Aelle is being a little bit more respectful than he should be if he's going to be a generative force. King Aelle should have been a little bit crueler to show this is not a guy to fuck with. Why am I even getting him the chance to what a lot of people do in those days, which was to make their amends before they die? You know what?
Yeah.
I should have been, I would have been, and King Aelle would have been, in spite of having been brought up like someone in the traditional vibe, should have just shown his people that this kind of shit that we've just put up with, this is not cutting the grade. People like this
don't get a chance to have any final words before they're executed, just kill them.
Thank you. We'll revisit this when we talk about religion, but for now, let's go right back at the start.
I venerated my brother. I didn't want him to come to ill. I don't think these people are trustworthy. There is love there. I listened to my wife. It was very poorly conducted. I know that she won't let me down. Aethelwulf going to care about her. How you want to hurt your dad? Do that shit.